Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And you're going to hit the like button on this one because it goes to show how absolutely desperate the SNP are. You know, normally on a Sunday, it's a quiet day of relaxing. You get one or two good stories and that's about it. It's been absolutely hectic today. But this story is one of those that you're just going to go, You see, we know that the SNP and the Greens are no longer best buddies. They have shot each other in the foot, effectively. They don't like each other anymore. But they know that they need each other, effectively. The SNP will need the Greens to get stuff through, and the Greens need the SNP to get what they want done. And they threaten to not allow the SNP to get things through unless the SNP comply. And that's the problem. You've got this tiny bunch of very low voted for Greens, effectively now the government of Scotland. Recognising this problem, Swinney has said that he will be willing to work with Unionist parties to get things through. And again, what a great idea. Except, of course, that these Unionist parties will want certain things in return. Maybe they could rely on a vote from the Tories to show that, yes, we'll give you that on condition that. And then, say, for example, the gender bill is reversed or some such. Labour will say, yes, we'll back this bill for you and get it through. However, what we want is, and then something else. So whatever happens, the SNP will be reliant on other people. On top of that, earlier today, Labour have said they're not willing to work with the SNP. They want a guarantee that anything they do arrive at where they could facilitate on a one-off basis will be done on the principle that the SNP no longer work with the Greens. This effectively nullifies the Greens. And so there is a future now of Parliament working, in fact, exactly how it was intended to work as a broad coalition government, where every single policy that's arrived at must be talked through and agreed, and the rough edges taken away from it, so in order to get it through. So there's particular aspects that the Labour Party don't like or the Conservative Party don't like. They can say, yes, we agree in the general principle because it will benefit, but this must come off. Or, quite simply, are you mad? We're no way voting for that. That's just ridiculous. And then it won't get through. That's how it is. The weapon protects itself. The weapon being, of course, democracy, the sword of truth and freedom, the shield of democratic power. This is how it was supposed to work, but it's not how it works. What you've got is a majority of weirdos, or it has been up until now, a majority of weirdos willing to push some of the most egregious and decadent and degenerate laws ever seen through any parliament anywhere in the world. Where else, in what other country, would you bring in laws that specifically sexualised children? This is the SNP today. This is what they're doing. And that would never have happened if they'd have been in a minority government reliant on other multiple parties to push things through. So yes, it's about time they did ditch the Greens. It's about time everyone of all parties, other than the Greens, of course, saw the Greens for what they are and basically treats them like a pariah, treats them like a leper colony and stays well clear. Puts up signs, make them wear bells so you can hear them coming. Ooh, that's a thought. That's the last thing you want to hear, isn't it? Especially Greer. Ooh. Anyway, I'll get distracted and that's just put a horrible, horrible thought in my mind. Anyway, yes, so where was I? Keeping the Greens well away from power, not allowing them any influence whatsoever, and basically pointing at them, laughing at them, and treating them as exactly what they are. Little weirdos with extremist views, Marxist views, and whose views have no reflection on what the 99% of the majority of Scotland would agree is right, normal, or natural. Now, for Labour's part, I can foresee them working with the SNP on certain aspects, maybe of social areas, social change and things like that. For the Conservatives, if they are willing to work with more sensible economic policies. I can see the Conservatives working with them to try and push through things that the Conservatives say, well, OK, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, but what we'd like is this, that and the other in return. Things like rent reforms and things. They could lose the rent reform bill because it's utterly damaging to the housing market, for example. Or especially this ridiculous stance on heat pumps and all that, because ultimately it makes no difference whatsoever to the world, but it will absolutely destroy Scotland. There's all sorts of, what was it, £1.5 million or something to fix one office worth 275,000. Come on. So there's all these things. So there are areas in which the main parties, the big boys in the room, Labour, Conservatives and the Lib Dems, are willing to work with the weirdos of the SNP, the extremists of the SNP, but nobody, and I mean nobody, should be made to work with or be prepared to work with the Greens. Now, as I said, this was how it was originally proposed to be. It was only the fact, really, it changed when the SNP a few years ago got their absolute majority, something that was never meant to happen, of course. And that was, I think, the beginning of the end. I think it was the beginning of the end of democracy, number one. And secondly, it was the beginning of the end of Scotland, because the powers they had, they misused. And they were pushing through all sorts of extreme policies, mad policies, policies that hadn't been thought through, that the consequences hadn't been looked at, where the costs, indeed, hadn't been looked at. And that is why so much failed. It was like children in a sweet shop. They didn't know what to shove down their faces first. And so they went mad. And now the whole of Scotland, of course, is suffering. They, the Scottish people, and the Scottish industries and the Scottish infrastructure and things like housing, NHS, education, everything is suffering from what is now effectively the SNP's sugar rush. And nobody has a clue on how to fix it. One way to fix it, of course, is to call an election, call a Holyrood election, just like the SNP constantly do at every change of leader ever for other parties. Oh, you've changed your leader, let's have a government, let's have an election. You've changed your leader again, let's have an election. And they've done it for years. Well, you've changed your leader, let's have an election. What's that? The sound of silence. But it is the only way to change. Get the SNP out, get the big boys in, and let sensible people make sensible policies in a truly sensible government of equals and not of degenerate freeloaders that they've become. Thank you very much for watching. Do pay attention, because these buggers will get away with it if you don't let them. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.